Hi and welcome to the studio. Today I thought I'd do something for the seniors out there, guys and girls that are a little bit less flexible probably, a little less quick probably through the ball, so a little bit slower obviously. And I sat there and thought, oh, well, what would I need to do? What could I do to help them out? And then I've realised I am a senior. So actually quite sobering in a way, but a little bit. Maybe we all get a little achier, older, back, can't move as much. So the first thing I'm going to say, and this is not a technical thing, we need to make sure that we've got shafts that are much lighter and more flexible. Now I've grabbed this one. This is a sort of soft flex ping shaft, and you can see it's not very technical, but look, if I bend that, you can see I don't need to do much to bend it. Look at my current clubs. There's a huge difference in how much that bends compared with that one. Now, it's not very technical, but it's just how much. So the first thing I would say that I want to make sure as a senior golfer is that I want a club that's going to help me. A little bit like having a softer fishing rod versus a really stiff one that I feel like I've got to move. And when you're young, you can get away with that. But as we get older, we can't. So we want to be able to get a bit of whip and a bit of movement out of the golf club. So the first thing I'd say is make sure the shafts are graphite and also softer. Drivers, same thing, but also a little bit more loft. With less club head speed, we need a little bit more loft at address to help the thing get up in the air. So I'd always say a little bit more loft and a little bit more angle would be fantastic. Loft and a little bit more softness in the shaft to start with. Right. After that, I think there's two things the key. We lose muscle mass as we get older, unfortunately. So what we've got to do is we've got to rely on using a little bit of body weight more. So I think the first thing that I would say that would be different in a way, let's say a senior versus someone who's 20 and wants to be on tour is, although I want you to move your weight across, we're going to be a little bit softer in how we do it. Maybe let our left heel lift up a little bit. We're not trying to create that massive torque that you see on tour and TV, this width and this strength here. We're just going to allow everything to move across a little bit more. So I think in the backswing, straight away, I just want to allow my hip turn to be a little bit greater in the backswing. Not ridiculously, obviously, because then you can't get back again. But we just want to make sure that we really get that weight onto that right foot in the backswing. The second thing then, by definition, is once I've got my weight onto my back foot, whether we're resisted or not, we want to try and create a bit of weight movement forward. The natural thing, I think, as we get a bit stiffer, and especially I know me and my hips are incredibly sort of inflexible, it's very easy not to move yourself forward and kind of give it a little bit of help up in the air, especially if your knees or your hips are playing up a bit. So I think, although we're exaggerating over here, one of the biggest things, and I always think back to Gary Player, and he, as he got older during his golf swing, he would swing the club back, but on the way through, he would actually walk after it. And that's the same as, you know, if you're Mike Tyson, as we talked about earlier, you can really, but if you got a bit older, you're not going to create quite as much stretch back. But if you can get that weight moving through the shot, so if I can throw my punch falling forward more toward the target, I think I'm going to create a much stronger shot moving with the shot than I am, obviously without stating the obvious, moving away from it. So we've got to let our weight move back. We've got to move it forward. I think that's really important. The second thing, if I use this club here, is I don't think we're going to create as much arm swing. So we're not going to get quite such a long arm swing. Again, requires flexibility and motion. So what I would say is we probably have to be a little bit more handsy. And that means we're going to use our wrists and our flickiness of our hands a little bit more. The bigger, you know, the younger guys, they're using their body release a bit more, and the hands are firing, but it's more of a forearmy. They're using everything to fire. Whereas, as I am a senior, I probably want to be a little bit flickier now. So almost you could see if I put my feet together, we've talked about this previously, can create quite a nice little clip, quite a nice little sound there, just kind of using that L shape, 90 degree here, and the L shape, 90 degree here. So if I'm here and I don't really move my weight at all, can create quite a nice little kind of clip, I would call it. If you want to call it flick, but it's a kind of badminton-y fired release where my thumbs are pointing up, they're then an impact and pointing up there. If I can get a little bit of weight movement back and a little bit of flick with those hands and arms, that's going to be, you can see, I'm not going to make a massive swing. I'm not going to try and do it as if I'm going to hit it really hard, but I've got that flickiness in there. Almost I've got my hands and arms working a little bit overtime, and my body, as we know, isn't going to work as hard because it's old. I'd love to say it's young, but it's not. It feels older than possibly I am. but that's because I am quite old as it is now. So, key thing, softer shafts, a little bit more loft if you can. Not saying you have to go out and buy brand new clubs, but make sure they're not too stiff and heavy, because that's not going to help the body and that's not going to help the hands and arms. We want a little bit of weight movement, so I'd probably go slightly narrower feet just to add a little bit of weight movement without going ridiculously either way, but we've got to move the weight both ways, especially forward. And I think the real key thing is that little flicky motion we're talking about here. If I've got my L shape here and I kind of release it, and we're back through to the L shape here, you can almost, as I'm doing it towards you, can you see how we're in that plane? I've got it on the plane here and through. That's going to give us the most speed, or most, I guess you call it bang, or buck for your bang, or whatever you call it, without having to overdo it. So no matter how much our brain and our body, my body tells me, but my brain tells me I'm not Tiger or I'm Dustin or Xander, the bottom line is our bodies are telling us we're not now. So we have to just be a little gentler. We have to just be a little calmer with ourselves and be a little bit more timing orientated, I think. Now, I'm off to get a nice cup of tea and sit down and put my feet up, because being as old as I am, you know, I'm doing well to dodge. I don't buy green apples, and you can see how grey I am now. Have a wonderful afternoon.